Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, September 22nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Michigan State game in 6 days. The game against Michigan in 69 days.
Nice.
The Buckeyes will head into Michigan State with a 3-0 record thanks to their 49-14 win over the Marshall Thundering Herd inside Ohio Stadium on Saturday. Joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, I don't know quite how to describe the game. It was a little weird. The defense was fine. The offense was incredibly explosive, almost too explosive at times because they kept putting the defense out there because they kept having these one-play drives. I don't know how to describe that game other than just hot. Very, very, very hot.
There are a lot of times that I'm like, oh, I love standing on the sidelines. Today, I was like, I am so happy that I'm upstairs, even though in the press box the air conditioner was barely on, but it was hot. Everybody was sweating. The turf was probably sweating. It was just kind of a weird day, but I think that depending on where you are on the barometer of Ohio State fandom, you're either going to be like, oh, well, you're just coming out of an open week and you were just a little flat, to, oh, my God, there's just wholesale changes that need to be made. Well, I'm going to tell you that it's much more the prior than the latter.
Yeah, it feels like this was a game where the offense was so good that the game was never really in doubt. The defense, they were about as liberal with their substitution patterns on the defensive line as I've ever seen them in a game. And Marshall's a better team than Akron or Kent State or some of the other teams that we've seen in here over the years. We saw back up. First of all, no Tyleik Williams. That was a notable thing. So he was out for the game. That probably impacted things a little bit early. But then even without him, you saw Jason Moore on the second drive of the game, and you saw Hero Kanu right on the first drive of the game, and you saw Taiwan Malone, and you saw a ton of Mitchell Melton after Caden Curry went out with a iffy targeting call right before halftime. This was a game where the defense wasn't perfect. Lathan Ransom was extremely good on defense, but the defense over on the whole was not perfect. But other than the opening drive of the game, they gave up 7 points for the rest of the game and had a lot of 3-and-outs. I think that the concern about this game in particular feels like more of a statement on the overall expectation of the Ohio State fan base for this team.
Well, the defense has made so many, steps forward, and I think that people, when you go back and you look at the tape, maybe will be wondering what the linebacker play was. Were the linebackers up to snuff? Do they have the right guys out there at the right time? Because Arvell Reese is really playing some great football right now, but you have your Block O recipient in Cody Simon. You've got CJ Hicks. You've got Sonny Styles. So there's going to be a lot to kind of go through there, but it's not a case of where it's like, oh, well, now that Michigan has seen what Marshall has done. Well, Michigan and Marshall go about skinning, I'm not going to get into any of that, but I mean, they go about doing things a very different way. So I don't think that there needs to be this huge amount of concern. Also, I mean, let's see what happens after Michigan State. The next game, Ohio State's first road game, you get a little uncomfortable in those types of situations. Where are they there now that once they play 2 games and we're not talking about an open week? And then, of course, after Oregon, when Ohio State has its second open week, then do they get off to a pedestrian start again?
And you might see some similar stuff out of Michigan State. I think if I'm Michigan State, I'm looking at this game and going, well, we have a quarterback who can run a little bit in Aiden Childs. And Stone Earl, for the quarterback for Marshall, had a really solid day, 76% completion percentage, 16-21, 132 yards. Nothing downfield, really, just a lot of short stuff, dink and dunk, neutralize the pass rush. 12 carries, 23 yards, long at 10. Again, not a huge game breaker, but just kind of kept the chains moving. And if you can keep the chains moving, you can keep the Ohio State offense off the field. That feels like one of the nicest things that the opposing offense can do for its defense.
Yeah, 2 things that I'll say in this. I mean, one thing that Marshall did a really good job of were a lot of little slants where the receiver is able to body off the defender and be able, they hit a lot of those passes. I mean, of the 16 completions he had, I'd say at least 8 of them were probably that. And then secondly, Ohio State was not getting home with the pass rush as much. I mean, we did see a big sack later in the game. I mean, there were some opportunities there, but we weren't seeing Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau, these guys being able to get there. I mean, and it wasn't even a matter of that they were just this close. I mean, it just wasn't clicking today.
Well, and it felt like Ohio State did not bring a lot of blitzes from where I was. We didn't end up talking about that on the post-game show. I meant to ask Tony about that. But from where I was, it just looked there was a lot of rush 4, and the rush 4 wasn't getting there. And a lot of times it was getting the ball out fast. But there were also times where Stone Earl was in the pocket for, it felt like 4 or 5 seconds without anyone getting there. Maybe this is one, this may be one where they just decided we're going to play it neutral, very vanilla, not throw a lot of stuff on film, you don't need to get exotic with any of your blitz schemes, just try and have your 4 beat their 5 more or less.
Yeah, vanilla is the proper term that I would have used as well. I don't think they did anything really exotic out there. We didn't see much in that regard. I think Ohio State knew it could come out and just kind of roll out there and do its thing. And people did, get a little freaked out when they marched down. And I mean, look at the first quarter of the game, and like the time of possession was just so out of whack. But that's also because the Ohio State offense, as Tom said, may have been too explosive at some points with 1 and 2 play drives and things of that nature. So, I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching the game again on Sunday or Monday and really kind of, maybe really forming my opinions. But from what I saw the first time around, no, maybe not their greatest effort, but again, they didn't necessarily try to do anything that was out of their base.
And the first quarter, Marshall had 25 plays from scrimmage. Ohio State had 6. The score was 7-7, but 25-6. First half.
Look at the time of possession.
Yeah, time of possession was 13:01 for Marshall, 1:59 for the Buckeyes. Which that's going to be taxing on your defense as well on a day that was as hot as it was. And the sideline reporter apparently said it was 135 or 140 degrees on the field or something like that. When you were out there like that, that's why they're rotating as many guys as they did, because those are long drives. And yeah, the first drive, okay, sure, it was a long drive. After that, they popped one immediately on to Emeka Egbuka on the second drive. It was 2 plays and 68 yards or 70 yards in like 50 seconds of possession time, whatever it was. That defense is right back out there. They have barely had time to get any Gatorade in them and, do any kind of conversation about, okay, here's how you're going to adjust things. It's just right back out there. So
they didn't even get the iPad on.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of opportunities if you're on the sideline. If your offense has a long sustained drive to learn from your things. Didn't feel like that was the case in the first half. So there's all the problems with the Ohio State offense. They scored too quickly. Long touchdown for Emeka Egbuka, 70 yards. Long touchdown for Jeremiah Smith, 53 yards. 40-yard run for Travion Henderson, a couple touchdowns for him. 86-yard run for Quinshon Judkins, a couple touchdowns for him. Quinshon Judkins, 14 carries, 173 yards, averaged 12.4 yards per carry. Was not the leading rusher on the Ohio State team in terms of yards per carry because Travion Henderson had 6 for 76, 2 touchdowns, 12.7 yards per carry. For a team where there was some concern about the offensive line coming in, yeah, it's Marshall, and you have to sort of caveat everything with, yeah, it's Marshall. But I haven't seen an Ohio State team that explosive in the run game in quite a while.
I was going to say, I think they ran for like 273 against Western Michigan, if I remember right. But still, this felt much more dominating because of the long runs that Quinshon had. Quinshon, there was one run where he just would not go down. I mean, he got hit and made contact, and somebody else would hit him, and it would like right his balance, and somebody else would hit him, and I mean, it was just really fun to watch. And then Travion still is shot out of a rocket out there. I mean, he had his 40-yarder. And then you throw James Peoples in, who is kind of coming in garbage time in a lot of regards. But, I mean, he is making the most out of it. He is somebody that, the way we're talking about Quinshon and Travion right now, we're not far removed from how we're going to be talking about James Peoples in the future.
Yeah, James Peoples definitely. Again, it was garbage time. It was behind, I think, largely the second-team offensive line when he was in there. And you had a pretty good sense, hey, this is probably what's coming. They're not going to be flinging the ball downfield all that often. You don't have Jeremiah Smith on the outside or Emeka Ibuka or Carnell Tate on the outside to really take the heat off, and still averaged 5.2 yards per carry with a long of 9. So it was just kind of 5 and 5 and 4 and 9 and just kind of...
Just steal something from Rutgers. Keep chopping.
Yeah, they did just keep chopping. One thing that might make people want to grab an axe is the Ohio State special teams, Kevin. Boy, that was, of all the games of Ohio State special teams I have seen, that was certainly one of them.
Saw somebody trying to say it was like the yips after Ohio State kicked 3 kickoffs out of bounds. 3 in a row. I mean, I've never seen that. If you had that on your bingo card, congratulations. But I've never seen it before. Ryan Day ends up making a change for the remainder of the game. That was all in the first half. They bring in somebody else. It's a little bit smoother at that point. Need to get Jaden Fielding right on that. But yeah, I'll just bring back 2 words: blast from the past. Parker Fleming.
And so that was Austin Snyder that came in and kicked those. Had 2 extra points and 2 or 3 kickoffs in the second half, and all of them went exactly where they were supposed to. So that was good. And that's, the nice thing, there is depth on this team if you need it. If you need to lean on those guys, there is depth there. There had some adventures in punt returning as well, where Brandon Innes was having problems, looked like with the sun, and muffed one, and that would have given Marshall the ball very deep in Ohio State territory. But
red zone for sure.
But Marshall was had lined up incorrectly, did not have the correct number of guys on the line of scrimmage, so it had nothing to do with the muff, but ended up negating the play anyway. So it was just a real rocky day on special teams. It's only one game. Maybe it's just, maybe you just kind of have to hand wave it and see if if this pops up again. It was a real bright, sunny day. The sun was right where Brandon Innes was looking at that point. It was just kind of right high over the scoreboard. So, if you've ever chased
he had a moment with the re-kick.
Yeah,
I mean, it was not the cleanest return.
Yeah, and if you have ever tried to catch a fly ball right in the sun, you know what it's like. It's one of those things where you don't have a glove, you don't have sunglasses on out there like you would if you were an outfielder. So you're kind of dealing with it, and you see a lot of the hand over the eyes, and that only goes so far. But yeah, not a great day for the Ohio State special teams. Not necessarily huge cause for concern, but not great. So now they're 3-0. They did basically what they needed to do against the 3 non-conference teams. You knew it was not a great non-conference schedule coming in. They handled their business. They're 3-0. Now on the road, opening Big Ten play at Michigan State. This is not an enormous leap forward. This is not, oh boy, and now you've slid the difficulty from JV to Heisman. But you're going from JV to varsity maybe, or varsity to maybe All-American, varsity to slightly better varsity.
You're going from JV to JV plus. No, I mean, Michigan State's a little bit better. Jonathan Smith has brought in a lot of talent this offseason. I don't know if we've necessarily seen everything. And then, of course, a big test for them is going to be they're in the red bandana game against Boston College.
Yeah. So that's still to come while we're recording this right now.
Yes,
as of recording right now. But so yeah, that'll be something that we'll have plenty of time to talk about this week. Kevin, Tony, and I heading up to East Lansing on Friday. Have plenty of coverage for you up there. Buckeye team arrival on Friday evening, and all the fun stuff for a Ohio State road football game on Saturday. We'll be there in East Lansing for all the fun. Make sure you join us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle, and of course at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where, of course, Kevin, Tony, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. Got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan. And if you want to get access to all of that, plus our Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, well, you can do that right now for just $4.99 for your first month. Got a flash sale going on. Just go to BuckeyeHuddle.com and click on subscribe today. Get access to the site for just $4.99 for that first month, which is going to include a whole lot of very interesting football games. We hope to see you there. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.